Welcome to Conversations Beyond Borders. I'm Laura, a mindset coach and your guide through the fascinating, sometimes challenging, but always transformative world of midlife. This podcast is for women just like you, women who are growing, questioning what's next, redefining their identities, and stepping into a new chapter with courage and curiosity.
And I'm Susan. Whether it's an empty nest, a career shift, or just that feeling of what now, midlife brings many questions, but it also offers incredible opportunities for growth and discovery. We're here to explore it with real stories, expert insights, and honest conversations about what it truly means to navigate this time of life.
In each episode, we'll explore a midlife challenge, whether it's making time for ourselves, stepping into new passions, or letting go of past expectations. We're tackling it all.
And the best part, you're not alone in this. You'll hear from women on the same journey, and we'll uncover the lessons, the laughter, and the aha moments that come with embracing midlife as a fresh beginning.
So whether you're feeling stuck or inspired, unsure, or ready to leap on in, Conversations Beyond Borders is here for you. This is a safe space to dream bigger, dig deeper, and connect with women who are also ready to live boldly beyond the borders of what they once believed possible.
Take a deep breath, find a quiet moment for yourself, and tune in as we navigate midlife together, sharing honest and meaningful conversations. Welcome back to Conversations Beyond Borders. I'm Susan, and as always, I'm joined by my insightful co-host, Laura.
Well, thank you, my delightful co-host, Susan. Hey, everyone. We are so excited to dive into today's conversation because it's something so many of us wrestle with, especially in midlife. Why is it that after years of experience and wisdom, we still find it difficult to find our voice and fully own who we are?
It is because we haven't fully embraced the ability to be who we are and speak with confidence. That is why this episode is called Giving Yourself Permission to Be You. We've spent years prioritizing others' needs, sometimes at our own expense, but today we're permitting ourselves to step into our voice.
That's right. Today we're talking about the power of assertive communication, how to express our needs clearly, kindly, and without guilt.
Yeah, and let's be honest, asking for what we need can make us feel vulnerable. But as Brene Brown says, clear is kind, unclear is unkind. I love that. So when we communicate with clarity and confidence, we honor ourselves and those we interact with.
This is so true. I know firsthand how uncomfortable this can be at first. It felt so awkward, even a little bit selfish when I stood up for my own needs. But one of the things therapy taught me was advocating for myself wasn't taking away from others. It actually allowed me to show up in a more healthy way.
That is such a key point, Laura, because this stage isn't just about speaking up. It's about believing that our needs are worth expressing in the first place.
Yes, they are. So today, we'll explore how to develop this confidence, overcome the discomfort, and celebrate the wins along the way.
So let's dive in. One of the most effective tools for assertive communication is learning to use I statements. These help us express our thoughts and emotions in a way that fosters understanding rather than creating defensiveness. When we lead with I, we take ownership of our feelings instead of assigning blame. For example, instead of saying, "You never listen to me," which can feel like an attack and put the other person on the defensive, we reframe it as, "I feel unheard when my thoughts are dismissed."
Oh, Susan, this is great. And you know how I love a good reframe.
Yeah, this subtle shift makes a big difference. It keeps the conversation open and constructive rather than escalating it into a conflict. Instead of placing responsibility entirely on the other person, I statements allow us to communicate our needs clearly and respectfully while leaving room for a collaborative solution.
Using this approach also builds self awareness. When we take the time to pause and express how we feel, whether frustrated, unheard, or misunderstood, we strengthen our emotional intelligence and create a more honest dialogue with ourselves and others.
That's just a great way to look at it, Laura.
Using an I statement encourages the other person to listen rather than react defensively. It sets up the exchange for a more productive conversation by shifting the focus from blame to understanding, making it easier to have a more meaningful, productive conversation, even in a challenging situation.
That is such a significant shift. Research by Dr. Marshall Rosenberg, the creator of nonviolent communication, shows us that empathetic language fosters better understanding in relationships. We create a dialogue rather than a defense by expressing ourselves honestly and carefully.
Especially when the goal is to have open and healthy conversations rather than confrontations. Another valuable tool is setting boundaries clearly and respectfully. A simple way to do this is using a calm, clear, and direct method where you state your needs in a firm but not an aggressive way.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of saying, "You always interrupt me," which can sound accusatory and immediately put the other person on the defensive, we can say, "I'd like to finish my thought before hearing your response." This subtle change transforms the conversation from one of frustration to one of mutual respect and understanding.
Ooh, I like that. So by shifting from blame to an explicit personal request, we're not just asserting our needs, we're modeling healthy communication. Assertiveness isn't about controlling the other person's behavior, it's about setting expectations for how we want to engage in a conversation.
Yeah, I have to admit, Laura, when I am caught up in a heated discussion, it can be incredibly challenging to step back and remember that the only things within my control are my words, my tone, and my intentions. In the heat of the moment, emotions can take over, making it tempting to react rather than respond thoughtfully. But I'm learning that maintaining awareness of how I communicate, not just what I say, but how I say it, can make all the difference in fostering understanding and preventing regret.
That is such a great thing to remember, Susan. Thank you for sharing. You are absolutely right. But our assertiveness also acknowledges our right to be heard without diminishing the other person's voice. We invite others to do the same when we frame our needs with clarity and confidence. Over time, this approach can shift the dynamics of a relationship and create space for more balanced and meaningful exchanges.
Yeah, another benefit of this approach is that it helps us stay calm and regulate our emotions, even in challenging conversations. When we react with frustration, "You always interrupt me," it can quickly escalate tensions, making the other person more likely to become defensive or shut down.
Oh, yes, I have been there.
Yeah, however, when we respond with a simple, assertive, and neutral statement like, "I'd like to finish my thought before hearing your response," we maintain control over our communication, ensuring the conversation stays productive and respectful.
Advocating for ourselves in this way also builds self trust. Each time we express our needs clearly and respectfully, we reinforce the belief that our voice matters.
It does matter.
Yes, it does matter. And when we consistently communicate this, we set a tone for how we expect to be treated, not just in this conversation, but in all our interactions.
Right? And tone matters too. Assertiveness isn't just about the words we choose, it's about how we say them. A steady, confident tone helps communicate our message effectively.
Oh, absolutely right. It sure does.
So often we assume the worst, that speaking up will create conflict, but many times it builds deeper connections. Even if it does create some tension, that's okay too. Part of growth is learning to handle discomfort.
Yes, it is. Assertiveness also means accepting that we can't control how others react. We can only control how we communicate. This is a significant shift in mindset because we often hesitate to speak up out of fear of how other people will respond.
But the truth is, their reaction isn't our responsibility. Our responsibility is to express ourselves with clarity, kindness, and confidence. If we approach a conversation honestly and respectfully, we have done our part, regardless of how it's received.
Oh, Susan, that is such a good point. And this doesn't mean dismissing other people's feelings. It simply means releasing the need to manage their emotions. When communicating assertively, we're setting healthy boundaries, not seeking approval.
Exactly, Laura.
We need to keep in mind that if someone reacts negatively, it reflects their perspective and emotional state, not necessarily a sign that we've said something wrong.
This mindset, for me, this shift is so freeing. It allows us to communicate without guilt or over explaining. Instead of tiptoeing around someone's possible reaction, we can focus on what truly matters, authentically expressing our needs, our values, and boundaries.
Exactly.
It's also empowering because it reminds us that we control how we show up in conversations. We can choose words that reflect our self-respect and confidence, knowing that even if the response isn't ideal, we're standing in our truth, and that alone is a win.
It sure is, Susan. Celebrating the small wins is so important. If you successfully set a boundary, spoke up for yourself, or stayed calm in a difficult conversation, acknowledge that progress. I found myself in a work situation where the staff was learning a new software, and I was the main point of contact for training and support. As you can imagine, after doing their jobs the same way for so long, there was quite a bit of frustration with the learning curve. To help diffuse their frustration, I did two things. One, I reframed their frustration by reminding them that these areas of frustration are also amazing opportunities for learning. And two, we celebrated every time they mastered a new step, no matter how small. This shift in mindset helped them stay motivated and engaged in the learning process.
Absolutely. Every step forward in assertive communication builds confidence and strengthens our relationships. For extra help, we will be attaching a worksheet in our Facebook group that may walk you through some of these difficult transitions in your conversations. Take the time and consider these different ways you might be able to communicate in the future. Now that we've explored the tools for assertive communication, let's talk about taking action. Assertiveness isn't just a mindset shift. It's something we should practice daily, right, Laura?
Yes, it is something we should be practicing daily, as the practice is the only way to gain more confidence. One of the first steps in becoming more assertive is to practice expressing our thoughts and feelings openly and honestly without fear or guilt. This can feel uncomfortable at first, especially if we've been conditioned to believe that staying silent or suppressing our needs is the best way to avoid conflict. However, true peace doesn't come from holding in anything. It comes from feeling heard, understood, and valued.
Agreed. It absolutely must be expressed.
For so many of us, the idea of keeping the peace has meant sacrificing our own needs, to avoid upsetting others. But over time, that leads to resentment, disconnection, and even self-doubt.
Oh man, I've been there myself, even recently.
Me too. And I have learned that when we start speaking up clearly and respectfully, we strengthen our relationships rather than harm them. It's about finding the balance between expressing our truth and fostering healthy communication, ultimately leading to more meaningful and authentic connections.
That is such an important point. A helpful way to do this is by journaling before speaking. If something feels difficult to say, try writing it down first to organize your thoughts and process your emotions. This allows you to step back from the initial reaction and gain clarity on what you genuinely want to express.
Oh, I like that. So if we take the time to gather our thoughts, it's twofold. We'll feel more confident in expressing ourselves and gain a deeper understanding of our own emotional language.
Yeah, another approach is to practice saying it out loud, either to yourself in front of a mirror or by recording your thoughts on your phone. Hearing your own words can help you refine your message and feel more confident when it's time to communicate.
You could also try role playing with a trusted friend or writing a letter, whether you send it or not. Sometimes putting your thoughts into structured words on paper or saying them out loud removes some of the emotional intensity, helping us express ourselves more effectively.
Yes, and if you need to respond immediately but feel overwhelmed, pausing to take a deep breath before speaking can be incredibly powerful. A simple moment of reflection can make the difference between reacting emotionally and responding with intention.
Oh, I love that. And speaking of self expression, another key step is to let go of the need for perfection and embrace imperfections. Many hesitate to speak up because they're afraid of saying the wrong thing, stumbling over their words, or not being articulate enough. However, assertive communication isn't about flawless delivery, but authenticity and intention.
Very true. We don't have to communicate perfectly to be effective. What truly matters is that we express our thoughts and needs with clarity and self respect. Even if we don't phrase something precisely as we intended, speaking up strengthens our confidence and communication skills.
Very true, Susan. And assertiveness isn't about getting it right every time. It's about practicing, learning, and improving over time. Every conversation is an opportunity to refine how we express ourselves.
A perfect opportunity, I'd say.
The more we embrace imperfection, the more natural and confident our communication becomes. Instead of striving for perfection, we should focus on progress, one conversation at a time.
One conversation at a time, yes. And this is especially true for those of us who second guess ourselves or feel the need to over explain. Sometimes, no, that doesn't work for me is just enough.
Oh, exactly. I fall into that over explain trap so often. But having a support system makes a huge difference. It's so important to surround yourself with supportive and accepting individuals, people who respect your voice, encourage you to speak up, and create a safe space for open communication.
Now that's a game changer. When we have people who listen without judgment and truly value our perspective, we naturally grow more confident in our ability to express ourselves. Supportive relationships create a safe space to feel heard, respected, and encouraged to communicate openly.
Yes, they do. And a supportive community is so important for our growth.
On the other hand, if we consistently find ourselves in environments where our thoughts and feelings are dismissed, invalidated, or minimized, it can make self expression feel exhausting or even pointless. Over time, this can lead to self doubt, reluctance to speak up, and a loss of confidence in our voice. So, Paying attention to how people respond when we assert ourselves is so important.
Oh, yes, it is. And if we've surrounded ourselves with people who repeatedly ignore, belittle, or undermine our emotions, it may be time to reevaluate those relationships. Ask yourself, do I feel heard and respected in my interactions? Do my conversations leave me feeling valued or drained?
Healthy relationships, whether friends or family or colleagues, should uplift and support our growth, not make us question our worth. But even when we recognize the need for change, finding our voice can be overwhelming, especially if we've spent years holding it back.
I know exactly how that feels. Now, if you're unsure where to start, creative outlets can be a great way to explore self expression safely and naturally. Whether it's art, writing music, or even movement like dance or yoga, creative activities help us tap into our emotions, process our experiences, and express ourselves in different ways before we can even put the words to them.
Oh, I love that. Creativity is such a powerful tool. And when we're engaging in these outlets, it helps to ask, does this align with my values and beliefs?
Ooh, good point. That is so important to make sure that it's aligning with your values and beliefs. Engaging in activities that align with what truly matters to us helps reinforce self trust. When we honor our values through actions, speaking up, setting boundaries, or choosing how we spend our time, we naturally become more assertive.
And let's not forget the importance of celebrating personal accomplishments and milestones, no matter how small. Too often, we focus on what we haven't done yet or how far we still have to go, but real growth happens in small, consistent steps. We are making progress every time we assert ourselves, whether by setting a boundary, speaking up in a meeting, or simply expressing an opinion.
I love this. I am a big believer in celebrating the small victories.
Recognizing and celebrating these moments reinforces our confidence and resilience. It can be as simple as acknowledging to yourself, I did that, and I'm proud of it. You can also create a habit of writing down wins in a journal or add it to the workbook that was found in our Facebook community or share them with a supportive friend.
Oh, Susan, I love these ideas of shifting our mindset from celebrating only major victories to valuing every growth step. Even if the conversation didn't go perfectly or you stumbled over your words, the fact that you showed up for yourself, each small win builds momentum. These moments add to lasting transformation over time.
Yes, and every time you assert yourself, even in tiny ways, it's a win. Maybe today you spoke up in a meeting or set a small boundary with a friend. These moments matter.
Yes, they do. So if you're listening right now, take a moment to acknowledge a time you spoke up for yourself, no matter how big or how small, and celebrate it. It's how growth happens, one small step at a time.
In this episode of Conversations Beyond Borders, we have discussed stage 3, titled Speaking with Confidence, Permitting Yourself to Be You. We've explored the power of assertive communication and what it means to embrace your voice entirely. Many of us, especially women in midlife, have spent years prioritizing others' needs, sometimes at our own expense. But today, we're allowing ourselves to step into our voices, express our needs clearly and kindly, and let go of the fear of speaking up.
We also broke down practical tools for assertive communication, including the power of I statements, setting boundaries without guilt, and handling discomfort when others react to our assertiveness. We also discussed how self expression, creative outlets, and surrounding ourselves with supportive people can help us strengthen our confidence.
Agreed. If you've ever found it challenging to speak up, express your needs without guilt, or navigate difficult conversations with confidence and clarity, we have shared practical strategies to help you through it. And this is just the beginning. There's more growth ahead.
Plus, we wrapped up with an important reminder. Every small step towards assertiveness is a win worth celebrating.
Yes, it is.
If speaking confidently is the first step, protecting your peace is the next. In episode 7, we'll take things further and explore how to set boundaries with strength, clarity, and self-respect.
Yeah, and I'd like you to consider these questions. What makes boundaries so hard to set, and how can we overcome the guilt? Number 2, how do we recognize when our boundaries are being crossed? And finally, what key phrases help us enforce our boundaries without conflict or guilt?
Join us as we navigate the power of saying no without apology. Join us next week as we navigate the power of saying no without apology, standing firm in our limits, and creating space for the relationships that truly support us. If you've ever felt drained from constantly putting others first, this episode will be a game changer.
The journey may not always be easy,
but we promise you,
it will be worth it.
Now, here is some of the legal stuff. The information shared on this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and should not be considered professional health advice, diagnosis, or treatment. We are not licensed mental health professionals, and the content of this podcast is not intended to replace care from a qualified mental health provider. If you are experiencing distress, facing challenges in your mental health, or require professional support, we strongly encourage you to seek help from a licensed healthcare professional. If you are in crisis and need immediate support, you can contact the Suicide Crisis Lifeline by dialing 988 or texting 988. Trained crisis counselors are available 24/7 to offer free and confidential support. This podcast is designed to inspire and support women navigating midlife transitions, but your journey is unique, and professional guidance can make a significant difference.